Balance is so important too, because like you had touched on, you want to say yes, you want to see everybody, but by doing so, you're also spreading yourself really thin. And then there's only so much of you. And as for anybody that's listening that has young kids, by the time you get home, you've spent the day doing the best you could, but there's still other little people that need you. And so
Yeah.
recognizing those lines too in your life of, okay, I have to be present in my home as much as I do in my career. And I need to kind of maintain what that line looks like for me.
Hey there, and welcome to the Speechie Side Up podcast. My name is Vanita Litvack, and I am so grateful you're here. I'm an ASHA certified speech language pathologist, author, and augmentative and alternative communication consultant who is obsessed with helping SLPs like you stop reinventing the wheel and connect with other SLPs in the trenches. Have you ever wondered how other SLPs seem to be doing it all with ease? Well, around here, you'll get to hear firsthand how SLPs are really getting things done while keeping evidence-based practice and self-care in mind. Think of this as a coffee date with your SLP friends. Get ready to be challenged and encouraged while we learn together.
Today, I'm joined by Kate Kurzall, a certified licensed speech language pathologist serving the South Bend, Indiana area. She is the sole owner and operator of Therapeutic Interventions and Solutions, LLC. Her interest in the field began as a young adult while helping her dad run a learn to skate clinic where several children and their families with varying disorders learned how to ice skate. She recalls one parent saying, "Watching my son smile out there is really all I want," which in turn pushed her to find a career that would afford more of those moments through therapy. She is a proud double graduate from Indiana University, Bloomington.
Yeah.
Go Hoosiers! With proficiency in American Sign Language. She then returned to South Bend, where she has worked across a variety of settings. She attributes these diverse hands-on experiences to be significant in her practice today. She ultimately loves giving families tools, strategies, and functional ways to apply therapy to support the needs of those they love. Now that we've got all that covered, let's get started. Hi, Kate. Thank you so much for coming.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor.
Does that bio cover everything, or would you like to share any personal information, maybe about what you do on your free time or your family before we dive into our topic about private practice?
Yeah, so if I'm not running the private practice, I really enjoy time with my family. I'm married with two little ones, so Maggie is newly 2, and then our younger one, Bernadette, who we call B, she's 10 months. So we are freshly out of the 2 under 2. And then we have 2 dogs, Corby and Luna, so we love to take them for walks. Big fans of the Fighting Irish, bonfires, going for Redemax burgers. Yeah, so I would say to add to that, my passion is just really that I'm serving and supporting Michiana families, and that I recognize within myself that it really does take a village coming out of 2 under 2. You really can't do it alone. So I love that I can be a part of that village for a lot of different families.
I love that so much. And first, I have to say a couple things. I love the names of your children and your dogs. They're all so cute. I love the name
Oh,
Bernadette and the
oh,
nickname Bee. I might take that from you. But and
thank
then
you.
also Redemax, we don't have that here in Florida. Is that just an Indiana thing?
Yeah, so actually it's up in New Buffalo, Michigan, and
Okay.
talking about ice skating, which I had mentioned as one of my inspirations for my career. But the owners, my dad worked with their kids when they were younger. And so, yeah, Redemax is their business. So we've been going for years. It's up in New Buffalo. If you go up there, it's really good. It's like a summer classic. So usually we have to go at least once or twice while it's open in season.
Oh, awesome. There are people listening to this who know exactly what you're talking about, but clearly I
They
have no clue.
they know those burgers.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's talk about starting a private practice. How does
Mhm.
someone start establishing services as a private practice provider?
I think there's a lot of different ways to go about doing it. So, the way that I'm going to share is just what I found to work for myself, especially within the community that I'm in. And I would imagine that's a big piece of somebody establishing their practice is knowing their community and what's going to best resonate with people. For me, I began by recognizing a significant need, especially with families I had previously seen in therapy, and that they were just desperate for help. And so the way that I went about starting my practice was beginning to offer in-home services, most often on the weekends. So I was still working my 410s. And then when I wasn't working, I was seeing some clients in private, made sure they didn't conflict with my job, made sure I was dotting I's, crossing T's on that front too. But then I was seeing them in their homes, and I started building my clients that way slowly. And it then got to a point where I dropped down to part-time at my job that I had. And from there was able to really continue to build that caseload and step away fully and just step into my own private practice. Within, working with younger children, I would say, at least within this area, a lot of families loved that I was willing to come to their home and work with their kids. And I think that that's a great way, if you're comfortable with doing so, to get your foot in the door and start putting your name out there, is if you're comfortable going to people's homes, doing that. Because for them, they're like, wow, that's a win-win. You get to come to our house. I'm not bringing the kids anywhere. You get to see what our day to day is like, and you can help me here at home. And so that was kind of how I went about, navigating the process of starting the private practice.
Are you still going into homes, or do you have a center now?
Yeah. So until August, I'll be doing in-home services. And then in August, I am opening up an office. So I'll be shifting a lot of my care into the office setting, except for I'll be keeping one day a week where I go on site to different schools where I serve as a private therapist for different students in those settings. So I'll be doing, a little bit of flexible model there, but yeah, a lot of parents have said, oh gosh, we've loved having you in our home. So this is going to be a huge change, but they also understand. And I think that that's been a piece of building the practice too, is they've watched me build it. They know the work that's gone into it. And so they're also part of my team as much as I'm on theirs. And so having that relationship has been really powerful.
I love that. I don't think I've ever heard anybody put it that way. It's a really good point that they're on your team too. You're not just on their team, especially when
Mhm.
you're in those early stages of private practice. They really do cheer you on and believe in you and refer you out. So I love
Yes.
that.
Yes, they do.
That's awesome. So, what are your tips for balancing time and business responsibilities with your home life, especially with two little ones?
Yeah, a lot of learning, and yeah, definitely a lot of late nights up front. I think I would, be remiss to say, oh, it's fine. You can squeeze it all in and it'll all work out. There are a lot of later nights, and deciding that this is what you want to do. But I felt very passionately called to do it. And I noticed that when I had previously, been working in the school setting, and in Indiana, there are no capacities on caseloads. So I felt very much like, wow, I'm working so hard, but there's all these kids and I want to serve them the right way. And what am I doing? How am I giving to these children? And so that really drove me and motivated me on the nights that I was up later trying to, track my mileage, put in charges, make sure that all the notes are done, that information sent to families. I've always kept myself on this model, which is 24 hours is usually what I strive to do for notes. And I also make sure that, and everybody does it different ways. And, you have to do what works best for you. But to keep me honest and on track, what I've done is I don't charge the families until I've provided that note. And at least when you're starting up your practice, I think that that really helps with your accountability and making sure that you're prioritizing building the business, so that I am getting the work done. I'm giving what the families what I promised I would do, and it's keeping me just as honest in this process. And now that I've built rapport, that model could change a bit, but at least up front, that was a really helpful thing that I implemented. Was I don't bill until I've completed the note, so that I know everything is getting done, and that I've totally completed the process, and I'm not going back and trying to make up stuff. So that was really helpful. Also, on my iPad, I ended up getting a portable little computer, to attach to it. So I write my notes in the car. If I'm
Mhm.
driving around and I have 20 minutes before the next kid, then I do my notes in the car, doing them offline, and then getting home and putting everything in and getting it all together. So just being efficient with your time too, realizing that if you have to be on the road and that's how you're going to build your practice, then go and do this stuff efficiently while you're on the road and make the most of the time while you're out, so that when you come home, it's really just more of the, okay, I need to get in, send the emails, get stuff kind of wrapped up, and you're not sitting there writing notes all evening.
Great tips. What EMR system are you using?
So right now I just do all of my notes through Google Workspace. They have
Okay.
all of their stuff locked, and it's done really well with, keeping in mind that we need to have everything HIPAA protected. So I went through Google Workspace to get started, especially for somebody starting a private practice and you have a lower budget. I
Mhm.
really looked into those lower budget options so that I could afford to be providing these services. In the near future, I might be switching into a genuine EMR system. But to get started, Google Workspace was a really great way to kind of get yourself up and running and keep your bills under control, so that you're not spending an exorbitant amount every month if that's just not in your budget right now.
Yeah, no, it's a good tip. I did start with Google Workspace as well because it is HIPAA compliant when you pay for that upgraded version.
Yep.
But Simple Practice has been great, and I don't think it's that expensive, $29 a month. I actually upgraded to the other version because of the notifications for my clients. I saw like
Oh, okay.
a significant drop off in cancellations when I did that.
Really? Okay.
And one client pays for it. So, that's kind of what I read. Oh, that's a lot of money, but I'm literally one client session pays for that and nobody cancels anymore, knock on wood.
No, that's
So,
great. Yeah.
yeah.
And definitely simple practice, as you get going and you're realizing, okay, I can afford to do this now,
Mhm.
making those shifts as you go. And I think that's a piece too to keep in mind, is when you're building a private practice, it doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
Maybe if you get the lucky draw, it does, but most times I've been doing this now for almost 2 years, and it just takes time. Really slowly taking those steps, being diligent, sticking with it, and getting to a place where, okay, now I can make that jump. Now I am going to get an office. And so, yeah, doing simple practice and kind of making that next step up will be great.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on the office. That's
Thanks.
exciting.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm really excited. Excited to have a space, not
Yeah.
carry it all in the car.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I can totally understand that.
Mhm.
So, how can you shape the private practice you desire? What are your tips for that?
Yeah, when I went into it, I just wanted to, like I had mentioned before, even just have my own practice, because I felt really passionately about serving families that way, especially in that more individualized way versus, okay, there's so many kids that I'm seeing. Or even when I was working in the hospital setting, you're seeing kids back to back all day, and you can't have all those conversations with families. But then as I've gone and I've been able to really say, what am I passionate about? Like, I've had more time to think about that amidst serving different families. And I think as you get to know the clients that you work with, you're also like, wow, I love this. I've never been able to dive this deep into this area. And so getting to know those clients that come your way, but also recognizing areas that are not your strong suit, is a really important piece too. It's easy to say, sure, I'll see this person, or sure, I'm a therapist, I could do that. But recognizing too, hey, that's actually not my specialty. And, I can serve a breadth of kids to a degree, but what you're explaining to me is outside of my capacities at this time. And so picking into that too a little deeper has been nice, because I felt kind of in the other settings I'd worked in previously, it was more like, well, they're on your caseload, they're here, so you need to figure it out. And I didn't think that that was fair to families, and especially to those clients. I hope that answered some of the question.
No, it definitely does. I'm definitely going through like the same thing right now. I actually had a call yesterday and I don't know, do you do this too? Maybe you don't do it anymore, but I always say yes first, but then I'm like, let me check my schedule. I know it's a no. And then when I check my schedule, I kind of reason and send a text back and say, I'm not able to do it, but here are like three other people you should get in contact with, and follow up with them a week later, make sure that they found what they needed. But it is so ingrained in me to say yes
Mhm.
immediately. And I also want it. But then when you really think about what you actually want your practice to look like, this would have been like an hour drive twice a week
Oh,
for me. I know. And I'm
oh.
like, what was I
Whew.
thinking? But I really wanted to work with this client in the same sense. And yeah, of course, you could do teletherapy and all of that. But I think that the more you can narrow down exactly like your client, exactly the area that you want to be working in, and all of
Mhm.
that, the happier you'll be for sure.
Yes. Yep. No, I definitely feel that. Because when people come to you, they're just genuinely trying to get help. And especially
Right.
for me as a parent with young children, I want to help them so bad. You feel their struggle, you feel what they're saying on the phone to you. Everywhere is over a year. I can't get any help.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. And so one thing that I have done, and everybody can do, what they choose, but sometimes what I'll do is I even will do just a consult session. If I say,
Mhm.
look, I'm not in a position right now to have your child on my caseload all the time. I will write down your information. I'll keep it in mind and let you know if that opens up. But in the meantime, sometimes I've even just gone, and if I had an hour in the week, a cancel came up, I let the family know, and I've gone to their home and I just meet with them. I kind of hear what their big concerns are. I look at the home and I just end up giving them some strategies to start working on. And sometimes, especially because a lot of the ones that I see are younger kids with language needs. So there's a lot of things that can be done at home that families just don't understand or they don't know. For instance, a family that I just saw, and I am seeing the child for therapy, but even when I was there, I said, well, look at these blocks. These are really great. We can do so much with the blocks. And I sat down and I was playing with their daughter and showing them. And they were, oh, we just, I don't know, we stack them up and then they fall. And that's kind of that. And I was, no, there's so many things you could do.
Mhm.
So sometimes I'll even just do a consult session where I go and I can just give families guidance and at least be there to start something for them versus them feeling, well, great, another dead end. Somebody else can't meet my needs, somebody else can't help my child. What do I do? Who do I go to? So that is a place that I've tried to figure out, what can I do, and could I even just get them started on some stuff and continually check in. I set reminders, and so I'll just email or text and say, hey, how are those going? What have you guys been working on? And I just check in that way, even if I can't see their child right now.
That's a really great tip. And I think that that's an easy way to integrate it and still help the families, but keep your balance as
Yeah.
well. And they're on your list and they're on your radar if something opens up.
Hmm. Yep. And balance is so important too, because like you had touched on, you want to say yes, you want to see everybody, but by doing so, you're also spreading yourself really thin. And then there's only so much of you. And as for anybody that's listening that has young kids, by the time you get home, you've spent the day doing the best you could, but there's still other little people that need you. And so
Yeah.
recognizing those lines too in your life of, okay, I have to be present in my home as much as I do in my career. And I need to kind of maintain what that line looks like for me.
Yeah, definitely. So, what are your tips for connecting with other providers in your area?
Yeah. So I've definitely just kind of been putting myself out there in this area. I have found that it's a challenge because many of the providers are used to fielding their referrals into, larger hospitals or specific settings that they know of. And so I've really been just sending my information to different providers, especially if I start seeing kids and, the parents want to do a super bill. And so I'm now working with that provider. I make a point to call their office and just briefly introduce myself and say, hey, I'm happy to provide more of my information, or if I can give you a background on myself, what I do, I'm happy to send that over too. And that's helped me a bit. And then also finding other types of providers in the area, not just the pediatricians, but other specialists too, has taken some time. For, if I feel that a child needs to be seen for a tongue tie or even pediatric orthodontics, other specialists that I need to get on board, that's taken some time to develop too. And I think I'm really hoping that we're all heading in a direction where we work more in that team fashion. And when you live in a community that it can get so widespread because
Mhm.
the area does, it's so big, but yet we're all doing the same things and we're trying to serve these kids in the best ways. And so I've been trying to also provide in services. So I send out my information. I just did actually last week to about 8 preschools in the area. So I send my information out to them, and then I offer to do in services if other offices come up. It sounds kind of odd, but even at my OB,
Mhm.
I messaged my OB and I said, hey, because it's a private practice. I said, you see a lot of moms, and if it's ever something you feel would be appropriate, I'm happy to provide early intervention information um, to some of the moms that are there, because if they have one child, many of them may have another, and the moms are, we're the people that are really keeping an eye on the household in many situations. We're trying to make sure the kids are getting to the appointments and that everybody's doing what they're supposed to, and we're meeting all the milestones, and dads or, partners are helping along the way. And so it's really good to just try and think creatively outside the box on where else can I put my name that maybe isn't the traditional setting I think I'd see myself in.
Yeah, no, those are great tips. What happened with the preschool in services? What was the benefit for them? What did they find as a benefit and did they pursue it?
Yeah, so I did 2 last fall, and I haven't heard back about this fall yet to do any, but I actually had some parents stay behind after the in-service and just ask me questions, like things that
Mm.
they felt, "Hey, I don't know if this is a concern. I've kind of noticed this. I'm not really sure." But then even with the preschool providers and especially the supervisors that had attended those 2 in-services, both of them said, "We really appreciate you coming and that you were just willing to share information, and you did it in a way that didn't make us feel we had to give you something to do it.
Mhm.
You were
Mhm.
doing it just because you want this for the families that attend our preschool." And so it's helped me have a really open relationship with those preschools that I went to. Both of those supervisors have since contacted me and said, like, "Hey, I hope it's okay. I shared your information with a couple other families. We did some of our fall screeners, and a couple of the kids that came up, we're recommending at least that they know about your services in addition to those that they can access through school."
That's great. So you invited the families too.
Yep. Yep. I
Cool.
told the preschool staff I'm happy to do it at the beginning of the year, such as for their staff, if they just want it
Mm.
for the staff to learn information, or if they want to have it for families, or do both. I'm pretty flexible about it, but more than anything for me, it's just so important that we're getting information out there and that people, providers, families are understanding how important it is to say, "Oh, that is kind of behind," or, "Oh, I was thinking they should have done this by now, but I thought maybe it was okay." Getting that stuff going early versus saying, "Well, it, might be okay. Maybe at the 3-year checkup, we'll think about it." Getting ahead of that, because then if you add a year-long wait list to a
Right.
3-year checkup, now we're age 4, and
Yeah.
you could have something else going on by then too.
Yeah. Oh, great points. This has been awesome. Is there anything else you want to share before we wrap up today?
Well, I mean, just, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I would just say that when you had offered for me to come on, I was so humbled, and just I want people to know that they can do things that they may feel are out of reach, or that they think, "I don't know, I'm so busy doing all these other things, or I don't know how to take that first step to step outside of the setting that I'm in." Um, but I will say that by taking that step, I've achieved better balance in my life as a provider, and just feeling a lot of that fulfillment that I was seeking in those other settings, and just kind of felt really strained and kind of pulled in a lot of different directions. So if somebody listening feels that way, it's worth at least looking into, hey, could I do this on my own? And, the answer I would give is yes. We can all do hard things. It just may take a few extra steps, and it might take a little extra time. But if it's something that would benefit your life and your clients, especially, then I would always advocate to look into it and give it a go.
I love that. I love where you come at in terms of private practice, everything you talk about always goes back to your clients, serving them better, doing soap notes before billing. I just love your whole philosophy. I feel like your values are probably integrity, flexibility, and then balance. I mean, that's kind of what
Yes.
I've gathered the whole time.
Yes. Yep. Very much so. And yeah, I'm sure you heard the word balance several times, especially with the two little ones here. I'm always okay, where can we just fit a little more time? Okay, we'll move that around. So
Right.
yeah, balance and flexibility mixed with integrity are the three.
Oh, I love that. Well, where can everybody find and connect with you if they want to keep this conversation going?
Yeah. So I should preface that my social media presence is not
It's
super stellar,
okay.
with the two under two, but I'm working on it. It's on the list. But I do have an Instagram. It's therapeutic is underscore LLC. I'm also on LinkedIn and I do have a Facebook page too. I have my own website as well, therapeuticis.com. So if anybody wants to connect that way or through email, anything that I can provide, I'm happy to. And yeah, if anybody needs information, count me in.
Awesome. Well, everybody go give her a follow.
Thanks.
That'll
Thank you.
prompt her to post a little bit more. But thank you so much, Kate. This has been awesome, and I can't wait to follow along on your journey.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me today. And I really appreciate it.
Yeah, until next time.
Thank you so much for listening. By the way, have you joined the SSU crew yet? By joining, you get access to the free goods section on our website, plus podcast updates, special event notifications, and therapy inspiration. You can sign up at bit.ly/join SSU crew, all lowercase, or just find the link in this episode description. Also, don't forget to take a screenshot of this episode so that you can always refer back to it and share it on social media if you really love the topic. Take care and remember to always fill your Speechy Side cup first before you can pour into others.